4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it.
Scott, have you seen Duck Soup?
I have seen Duck Soup so many times, and I saw it recently. I saw it about 10 years ago. I got the DVD from the library and revisited it, and it's definitely one of my favorite films from the Marx Brothers, and what a classic.
Yes, the Marx Brothers. To people of our generation, they were one of the great, movie comedy teams, Groucho, Harpo, and Chico. They probably seem pretty old to a lot of younger people now, and who may not even know about them. But the Marx Brothers had this crazy physical comedy, nonstop jokes, puns, just all kinds of. They made fun of everything,
and they came out of vaudeville. So the whole vaudeville environment of performance was really the foundation of their comedy.
And that's what you see in the movies. I mean, in a lot of their movies, particularly the early ones, it's like a lockdown camera shot, wide like a stage, and you're seeing the three Marx Brothers, 2 or 3 of them, doing funny stuff. And so they were a vaudeville stage act. They then went on and turned their vaudeville into like stage plays. So they'd be kind of comedies with a little music, and they were actually on Broadway. And those plays then were adapted to movies, and that's how their movie career started. Certainly for their first 5 movies, which were all in the early sound era and all in the pre-code era, all at Paramount Studios, which at that time was not making big budget movies. And the last and widely considered the best of those was Duck Soup.
And you've got Groucho, who's the con man, the womanizer, the punster. And he was really the superstar, and he went on to have a TV program in the 50s called You Bet Your Life that we remember in reruns in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, Groucho, for people of our generation, he was this guy. He was no longer making movies or anything like that, but you just knew, we saw his old movies, and you knew he was this important comedian and he'd be a guest on other TV shows and stuff. Just like, I don't know, for people now who weren't there then, but they know about the original Saturday Night Live. They know about, Bill Murray and Chevy Chase and people like that. He had that sort of role when you and I were young.
And then Chico's the troublemaker. He has a fake Italian accent. And then Harpo is the id. Harpo is silent. In fact, was there any, I don't know of any scenes at all where he ever spoke. Do you?
I don't think so. I don't know a lot about all the Marx Brothers movies. There might be some famous scene where something comes out, a note of being sung or something.
And all three of them
he's always silent.
He's always silent. And all 3 of them are very physical, but he's the most physical. He's the one that is the most acrobatic and does the most unusual things with his physical body.
Well, I like that you said he's like the id, because he does the most, he's just the most anarchic. He's always got a pair of scissors, and he's constantly cutting things off, people's ties, people's beards. His name is Harpo because he plays the harp. They were very talented. They were all musicians, and Harpo and Chico both played the piano incredibly well, but Harpo also played the harp.
And you mentioned the scissors, but he has multiple things, many things that he has in his pockets of his baggy pants. And he's always pulling out things like blow torches or to light cigars or cigarettes and any alarm clocks and things that are in his pants.
Yeah, in Duck Soup, when he pulls out this fiery propane torch to light people's cigars. Yeah, he can pull out whatever is necessary from that long coat to fit the scene. And Chico, some people might say, oh, that's like a racist parody of Italian Americans, but it was really done in good humor, and it certainly was done. I don't think it comes across that way. He just has this terrible fake Italian accent.
And then also there's Zeppo, who in Duck Soup was the last film that he was in. He was the 4th brother who was a straight man.
Right. There were actually 5 Marx Brothers. One was named Gummo. I mean, these weren't their real names. They were their stage names, obviously. But Gummo was like a business manager or something. He was never in any of their shows. Zeppo played the straight man just for the first 5 films through Duck Soup, and then he retired. He was like, I'm sick of just doing this stupid role. It's all about you guys. There's an actress who's in 7 of their movies who plays the straight woman, Margaret Dumont.
And in fact, you can't for myself, I can't even think about a Marx Brothers movie without her being in it.
Yeah, I mean, Margaret Dumont is great. She's sort of in on the joke, but she's the perfect foil for Groucho.
She's a very large woman. She's very tall, very voluptuous, and she's stately. She's like a matron, and she's
Right.
always above everything that they're doing, even as they torment her.
Yeah. So Duck Soup is as I think we already said, widely regarded by critics as probably their greatest movie. It may not be as accessible as some later ones, but the story is paper thin. But all it is the movie is set in the fictional country of Fredonia, where the government is only able to exist because the wealthy Mrs. Teasdale keeps loaning it money, and that's Margaret Dumont, right? This sort of society lady. So she says, you guys aren't managing the government right. She insists that her friend, and we have no idea how they know each other. It's right in the opening scene. She's like, I want my friend Rufus T. Firefly to be made the president. So they have to agree, and that's Groucho, of course. And then he proceeds to disregard all civilized behavior, make a mockery of everything that the official stuffed shirts who are running the country care about. And just sort of anarchy descends on Fredonia. And then the little plot is that the ambassador from the rival nation of Sylvania sends out two spies, played by Chico and Harpo, Ciccolini and Pinky, and they're supposed to figure out what Firefly is up to, and then eventually the two countries go to war.
And you say figure out what he's up to. Well, he's just up to his own anarchy, that he's comedic anarchy, and they themselves are up to their comedic anarchy.
Right. He just wants to chase girls and find out ways to get money. And he's always romancing Margaret Dumont in every movie, even though you're supposed to assume he's not really that attracted to her because he's just trying to get money from her.
And also, and the same for the two spies are basically, especially Harpo is chasing after women as well.
So, I mean, what's the best way to describe the sort of anti-establishment or anarchy that goes on and disrespect from maybe I just said it. You know, it's just crazy physical humor and jokes, and also really fast monologue stuff from Groucho and Chico with all these endless puns.
And in terms of the way that their comedic style is, in terms of this loose plot, and in terms of Groucho as the leader of the country, he'll in the space of like 10, 20 seconds, he'll say one thing, then contradict it, then contradict that, and then contradict it again. And this is all about state policy.
Yes, just like real politicians. The greatest, and then in a way, Duck Soup is just an excuse to do a bunch of set pieces, right? The plot doesn't matter that much. Some of the really famous ones, my favorite one is the one in the mirror with the...
Yes, very iconic.
At one point, both Chico and Harpo dress up just like Groucho, so all three of them look identical. And then they're doing this scene that they're acting, two of them are facing each other, and I guess they're trying not to give away who they are, so they both pretend it's a mirror.
Well, there's a mirror that gets broken.
Oh, okay.
Harpo breaks the mirror, and it's kind of interesting because it's a mirror that is also a portal to the next room. It's kind of interesting that it's not just a mirror against a wall. It's almost like it's a mirror that's been erected in a doorway because it's in the shape of a door.
Right.
But of course, that's just an excuse for the routine, for the gag. And that's like a lot of the movie, where it's just, like you said, it's one series of skits or comedic, an opportunity to do a gag.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where at first it's Harpo imitating Groucho, but also Groucho, again, fairly quickly into the routine, you kind of figure out that Groucho knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they just play it out. And then eventually Chico joins in too. So then
Right.
there's three Grouchos that are ambulating across the mirror.
Yeah.
The so-called mirror.
You know, I want to mention another movie. You've probably seen at some point. You've seen Night at the Opera, right?
That is correct. I haven't seen that in many years.
Yeah,
or Day at the Races, which followed. This was the 1935 for A Night at the Opera, and in 1937, A Day at the
Yeah,
Races.
and Duck Soup is 33. The reason I bring it up is, I think the Marx Brothers are, and why we're talking about them, they're incredibly influential. They influenced whole generations of comedians, and they influenced comedy in the movies. But I'm afraid to say that I think a lot of younger people who, if they watch this now, would find it kind of silly. It's like, oh, it's a bunch of dad jokes, and it's not that funny. And I think that's Duck Soup, although the American Film Institute ranked it 5th out of the top 100 comedies of all time because of its amazing sort of comic anarchy. It doesn't play well as just like a movie with the expectations we have for a movie with a plot and all that. And as we mentioned earlier, it was the last of their 5 movies for Paramount, all pre-code. And then they went to MGM, and the great producer Arthur Irving Thalberg said, I'm going to hire a bigger budget. We're going to use all the MGM glitz for production numbers and create a story where the viewers actually care about some of the characters, not the Marx Brothers, but the other characters. And I think those would be more accessible now. And the Marx Brothers, even then, those were their 2 biggest box office successes. When they did Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races for MGM, all of a sudden they were hugely popular as movies. And it's because, in that movie, you actually have a plot where you have these 2 young opera singers who are in love with each other, but then there's their rivals, the top tenor who just wants to take advantage of her, and the owner of the opera company. And so what they do is, now the Marx Brothers hijinks and their anarchy is directed at the characters you don't like, and they're helping the characters you do like.
Whereas in Duck Soup and the films that preceded it, it's everybody is a victim of the Marx Brothers humor.
Exactly. They're just sort of, lashing out at the world in a humorous way. So I would recommend, if you're only going to watch one Marx Brothers movie, unless you just like really crazy stuff, I'd say watch Night at the Opera. Watch that one first and then watch Duck Soup would be my recommendation.
The one thing about Duck Soup is that it's only 69 minutes long.
That's
true. An hour and 9 minutes of there's no fat in the movie. It just starts and then it ends. It begins and throughout has major musical numbers that are also part of the humor. And that's pretty much in most of the Marx Brothers films. There's a lot of music involved as well.
Yes, funny music. In Night at the Opera, they actually have some serious opera. So, but just for a few minutes, So the Marx Brothers, I can't recommend them enough for just to get a good slice of a great period of comedy in Hollywood.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Scott.